Yeah, there we are. I think I'm live now. Hang on here. I'm going to just double click on something else here to go live in Instagram too. Bear with me, everybody. Hello, Ricky T here. We're gonna go live there as well. Okay, a little bit of tech stuff. Thanks, everybody. Hello there. Happy day. Let me do a little screen moment here. Using some cool technology. Some of you know it's called eCam. It streams to lots of platforms, but you don't care about the tech. What we care about is hopefully hearing some ideas and some things that came to me this week. So, hello everybody. My name is Dr. Rick Tamlin. I am a Hay House author of Play Your Bigger Game and have been in the personal and leadership and space. I actually like to say I've been in the support humans, individuals, and teams and organizations to go to their next level business for about 40 years now. And so many variations on a theme, on how I do that and what I've done. And anyway, I don't need to go down on my history or my resume. Who cares about that? So let me just make sure, by the way, that tech is working. Let me just open up a little app. Okay, I think, yeah, there we go. Yeah, live on all. Okay, great. I just got word. My amazing behind the scenes who makes magic happen, Jocelyn Flowers, told me things are working. So there you go. You always have to have a person to make sure things are working. By the way, if you want a great person who helps things make work, Jocelyn is amazing. So don't want to do a big commercial here, but oh my gosh, if you're in need of tech help or social media help or marketing help on how to use that. So feel free to reach out to her. Jocelyn, just throw your email in there. And again, I don't mean this to be a commercial. Hello, Karen. Is it Karen? Yeah, good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Okay, so on my morning walk, I talk to all my clients, by the way, every morning through this app called Marco Polo. It's a video app. It's a group, and I can talk to them every morning, and I give them some insight or a challenge or a next level thing to think about or a homework assignment even. But I talk to them every single day, and they talk to me every single day. And here's the theme that I've noticed that has been coming up a lot, and it all makes sense. I've been hearing it from my clients. I've been hearing it from, around me a bit. And it's I don't think it's a radical concept, but I think it bears repeating. And it has to do with creating our futures, right? And so, yeah, Jocelyn just put her information in there. So very simply, I'm going to use me as the example. The more I sort of start to swim in some fear space, like the world and what's happening, and we all know, right? We can go down that rabbit hole in 4 seconds because you all know, if you're in my world, we can collect data and collect evidence for any perspective we're in, right? I can go find data that my world is really scary. I can go find data that my world is really friendly. I can go find data and evidence that my world is alive and dynamic and interesting, right? So it's all, and of course it all happens in the mindset. We decide my world is this way, and then I go collect evidence for it. We actually generate it. That's a little bit of quantum physics stuff there. So for an example, we had a really challenging event happen here in my hometown of Palm Springs, California. If you saw the news, if you're not following the news, no worries. Just going to give you the high level. We had a car bombing situation. I'm not going to go into the details, but it was a scary moment. Only one person passed away, the guy who actually had created the bomb. Everybody else safe. A couple people were injured, but nothing bad. So that's the data point. My point of this is, right, I could easily go to very quickly, oh my gosh, it's a scary world, right? And because I can lean right into that news story and go, right, oh my gosh, right? Now this morning, I go for a walk. I see my neighbor on his way to go play tennis. Super sweet guy, very friendly, have a completely different experience in my moment this morning on my walk, and now it's a friendly world. So of course we're dancing between all of these things based on the externals, right? External circumstances, excuse me, can start to impact, right, my internal life. We all know it works the opposite. Internal life generates your external life. How we be with things is how we experience things. But where I want to really go with this is when I start to get into that fear space, or then I want to try to manage my future, and I over strategize. And the topic this week that I noticed is, this, like, I can feel it in me. I need to have the perfect strategy for what's coming. I need to, strategy for my future, strategy for my fall, strategy for when I'm 70 years old, strategy. I start to think like that. Now, there's a paradox here. I need to be a responsible aging person, and I need to have economic stability, and I need to have my work life. So it's not a no to strategy. But when I start to step into a space of trying to control it, and it robs me of the creativity of when I get there. So many, many years ago, I was in this advanced leadership workshop, and one of my mentors in that room, I was in my sort of like freak out space of like, the future and what if, and the whole what if conversation, a lot of what ifing, right? And she just very gently said, Rick, you're going to figure it out when you get there. And it was the simplest phrase delivered on this beautiful silver plate of wisdom. And I went, oh yeah, right. Because I believe that humans, this spiritual nature of a human, we're in a body form. We're here to create. And so if it's all strategically figured out, it robs me of the moment of creativity when it doesn't go the way I thought, because it probably will never go the way I thought it's going to go. Like, my clients come from, like, I think they're going to come from there, and then they come from over here, and then I think it's going to, I do a call, I do an event, and I think, well, that's going to be the one place, and then all of a sudden I'll get a phone call from over here that doesn't make any sense because it actually wasn't part of the strategic plan. So, let me make sure I sort of simplify this, but I think you get it. I mean, if you guys have questions or comments, put them in the chat. As I can see, by the way, some chat here in the platform we're on. I think Facebook and I can certainly see the Instagram chat. So comment, question. But when you notice yourself, I'll just talk for me again. When I notice myself getting into that overly strategic planning context, what that is I don't trust my own creative ability in the moment to figure it out with what's going on. And this applies, by the way, to economics. This applies to relationships. This applies to our health. I mean, the health topic, right? It's like, what if or I've been diagnosed with this, right? And let me go down that tunnel for just a second. I have a family situation. I won't go into the details, but right. So there was a health situation in my family life many, many years ago, and my diagnosis was not pretty. Why am I telling you this? I'm gonna just tell you the end of the story. The end of the story is they got super creative. The hospitals that were involved in saving this family member's life, and they got super creative, and they made up new stuff they'd never tried before. So the creativity came up, and it worked. They had no idea if it was going to work. There was no guarantee, but it was a classic example of, we're going to figure this out. We're going to try something. We're going to get creative when we get there. Because I'm inviting you into this perspective that life, it being creative, is to figure things out personally, professionally, economically, spiritually, relationally, is an amazingly fascinating, fun, fun is going to be a hard word when you're like, no, you don't understand my circumstances, right? There's a like you can go there, like, but if you really can go sort of step back and look at it from a context of like, oh, this is activating and animating my creative ability, right? Um, that's a reframe of looking at it. Now, is it everything going to work? Is everything going to handle the finances? Is everything going to handle your lifestyle? You don't know. You don't know, right? But I'm in the personal and leadership and business development space a lot, and I always notice organizations and teams and companies when they get sort of into a space of they get creative. They get creative. Like, the largest company in the world, whether you like them or not, but Steve Jobs did a lot of creative thinking in the midst of having been fired by his own company, right? You'll probably all know the story. It's a classic example of like, right? Oh, we have this business. You're not good enough for this business. He actually was told he's not a good salesperson. He was fired because you don't know how to sell this thing. He went home, sat in his house for a year, and then came back and created a brand new company. So the shutdown or the no can activate the yes to creativity, right? And of course, then we get attached to, will it work? And right, because the other thing that I noticed that came up a lot this week for my clients and myself is, and I hope you hear this in the right context. Well, what if there were a couple questions this week? What if my keynote, as I help people with speaking these days, I help people with creating their books, I help people be in front of rooms, I help people get their thing into the world. My language is I help people play a bigger game, and the world knows their bigger game. They're not a secret with their bigger game, right? But a number of people were like, well, what if this really takes off? Oh my gosh, I won't be able to have a life. Like I'll be on the road all the time, and I'll be like, And I literally found myself saying, in that same way that my mentor said to me, I said, you will figure it out when you get there. And then I said to somebody, which is such a great, very simple thing. It's like, if you are asked to speak because your book or your workshop or your thing is so successful, and you want less speaking gigs, you just double your rates. And some people might go away, and some people might just say yes. But you want to, you'll get time back, but you'll make the same amount of money. That was a business strategy moment. They were like, oh my God, you're right. But then I had to say again, we'll figure this out when we get there. We'll figure this out when we get there. And I know many of you have challenging circumstances. I don't mean to diminish or be disrespectful to any of the challenges that might be going on in your life, personally, professionally, economically. And go around the wheel of life, right? They go on all the time. They're always there. But again, I'm kind of repeating myself. But if you could kind of like look at it from a kind of have these internal dialogue with yourself and go, this is an opportunity to activate my creative geniusness, because I believe this is a Rick Tamlin thing, that we are born as creative geniuses, right? And we just forget, or we get confused, or we get overwhelmed, or we don't try stuff, or we don't make something up new, right? That we need to try, or we I don't know, whatever. There's an internal mindset to that, right? That these last couple months, you can go down the like, oh my God, where's the world going, and what does this mean, and all the different topics. I'm not going to get into policies, but all these policies are creating all this stuff, and it is animating and activating. And some of them, by the way, are, as we know, these policies are really destructive for families and individuals, and I'm not going to go down that path. But I will offer this. It is animating and activating for people and lawyers and organizations to get really creative. They're getting very creative on how to handle it, because we don't want it to be happening, yet it is happening. So how can I be creative with this? What can I do from this? What is my reaction to this as a leader? And that's the bigger question. What is my stake or my stand on this? Like, where do I, right? And then what am I going to do about it? if anything, right? And that's always an internal choice. So I hope that's helpful, and you're kind of able to look at it from again, I want to be so careful and very respectful on all the different circumstances. Yeah. Yeah, Bunny, have a great day. Nice to see you here. All the different circumstances that are going on in your lives, right? We could all jump on a call right now and we could go around the wheel of life. And I know every single one of us has a situation with relationships, has a situation with money, has a situation with your body, has a situation with, right? It's all there. And again, if you can, I know I'm repeating myself probably for the third time, but I want to, hopefully you get this. If you can kind of, that's the circumstance. Hard, hurtful, mean, don't like it, scary, right? That's all the feelings inside of that. And then if you can just have a moment, and this is the part I really love helping people do. These are a lot of the one-on-one calls I have with my clients. These are a lot of the work I do with a team. Like, the world is changing, and how are we going to maintain what we have? How are we going to go to the next level? That takes a conversation. That takes what I call a creative conversation, right? Rather than just collapse into the confrontation of it, it needs to be a creative conversation from it, right? And that's where consultants come in and coaches come in, and philosophies are brought in. Like Bigger Game is a philosophy and a workshop, because the creativity of the person and the team and the organization needs time and needs energy and needs expression and needs conversation. Will everything be solved or fixed from creativity? No. But I do know this: if I just collapse into the circumstance and don't remember that I can bring if I can wrap my circumstance in this bubble of like, okay, what is the creativity that is animated and activated in me from this, right? That's right. And that usually takes a conversation with another person. I'll just kind of leave you with that. Left to my own devices, right? This brain, this fear, this internal dialogue many times will start to devolve. I need to do my daily meditations to kind of keep it above the line, if you will. I need conversations with people in my life. I work with a Jungian therapist. I work with a coach. I'm in a mastermind group. I need places and spaces and people to keep me in the creative juices of my life, because, and I don't know how anybody does it alone. I'll be honest. This dance of life, right? I think that's why the quote unquote life coaching industry took off, because I get to have a conversation with how I want my life to go, right? And I'm talking about it with another human, and then I take action to make it go in that direction, rather than I just spin in my own stuff, right? So there you go. I hope that's helpful, and the key takeaway sentences are: remember, you are born as a creative genius. It might be trained out of us, it might got schooled out of us, whatever. It's like, no, I'm not creative. You are. Every time you cook a meal, you're creative. Every time you think of a new way to drive to work, that's a creative choice, right? Very simple idea. But if you can remember to remember this idea that you'll figure it out when you get there, that actually is the joy of creativity. Now, it might not feel joyful based on the circumstance, but I do believe in my heart that creativity unto itself, the conversation of creativity in my head, or for a team to talk about what's next, or an organization, or a board of directors, to be in that creative conversation is actually rich and dynamic and fun, right? And if it's not fun, they sort of forgot that we're in a creative conversation, right? Rather than a, oh my God, panic. There's that. Like, oh my God, this is a situation, we need to bring attention to it right now. But creativity is still in that space. So I hopefully am enrolling you, fancy word for enticing you into remembering that creativity is the juice of the human experience, right? It's one of my favorite words. I think it's a constant, and but for today, just remember, less strategy of the future. Be conscious. Yes, my money and my investments and whatever it is you're doing to take care of yourself as you get older. That's all a part of it. Working, jobs, money, right? In your daily life, right? And then there's the over strategizing my future. Like, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. We've never known what's going to happen. Can we just call it? Like, we just don't know what's going to happen. But that great phrase, I'll leave it with you, is you'll figure it out when you get there. I've lived long enough, you guys probably have too, where the ups and downs of economics, the ups and downs of health, the ups and downs of loss, and when you get there, and when you sort of bump into that moment of like, right, and that's that moment of creativity is now called for in the moment, right? So anyway, have a great rest of your day, everybody. Happy Wednesday. Speaking of creativity, I did write this book. This basically the bigger game. It's a model. It's a workshop. You guys have been hanging out with me. It's a model. It's a workshop. It's a talk. I'm bringing it back to the world this fall. I'm really getting it on the calendar for teams and individuals, and even considering doing a train the trainer of it. People have been asking me for it again as a workshop. And for those of you that are facilitators or front of the room people, be on the lookout if you're on my email list. But I want to offer all of you who are listening right now, the first chapter. Just it's a freebie, right? And there's the link. Jocelyn's put it into all the platforms. Cut and paste, put it in your browser, and it asks for your email, and you'll certainly then hear from me on. I talk to my people. I shouldn't say people. You know what I mean. I talk to my email list about once a week with some ideas and some tips and hints in the personal and leadership development space, personal growth space. And you'll also get information on what's coming down the pike from me. There's another book coming, and anyway, just a little way of keeping in touch with folks who are following this craziness. And thanks for listening. I hope it served. And sending you, your families, your communities, your organizations, your teams, your states, our country, and of course our globe the best, right? What I know at my core is on some level, on the spiritual level, it is all unfolding in a perfect way, right? Might not look that way, but if I really can start to, like, again, get really meta view from it and go, okay, somehow this is unfolding, and then I can remember inside of that I can bring my creativity to it no matter what it looks like, because creativity is our birthright, and it's our gift that we've been given to figure things out when we get there. So less strategy, more creativity. Have a great one, everybody. We'll see you soon. I'm going to push some buttons here to stop the